What's good, guys? Your boy Hugo the Savage back again for another Marvel Secret Invasion episode 2 entitled Promises review. Let's get into this nice and quick. I have to say, everything I said in the first episode stands, but if you're into this kind of programming, you're gonna love this. I have to say, the first one, there was points in it when it was a bit slow, and I didn't mind it because I'm patient, but obviously it's Marvel and you're so used to everything being connected to the movie and the different movies and iterations and post-credit scenes that it keeps you hooked and you just want to know what's going on. I have to say straight off, we spoke about how the show was filmed in the last one. Everything's perfect, the cinematics and all that stuff. So we don't really need to mention that again unless they decide to halfway through drop the budget. But it's been great. It's really filmed like a great TV show. It could be a standalone on its own, I would say. Of course, it's going to affect the Marvel Cinematic Universe in some kind of way or give answers to certain things that we had questions for. But as of right now, in watching 2 episodes, it feels like a standalone show, which I actually think is the best way to go with Marvel. I like the fact that they have connections to the movies, what we've seen in the movies. That's very relevant, and I think it's important. But I don't like when the fact that that's all they do, and this has taken on the role of being somewhat political, but not in a Disney political way where they're trying to push agendas. But it's a lot political because it's to do with spies. I would say things that people in real life have conspiracy theories about, they kind of embed in this show and make them not conspiracies, they're real. But that's been done before in movies. I think that Keanu Reeves movie, The Day the Earth Stood Still, I think it is. It's a lot like that. Obviously, Secret Invasion's been around for a minute. I've got the comic book next to me, and these have been out for a while. So there's few things that they've kept from the comics which I like. Few things that I kind of gathered what was going on, but I wasn't sure. So we're going to get into that right now. This obviously has spoilers. The first one, I left it. There was no spoilers in there. I'm not going to go into every single detail, but important to talk about different things. So I would say that this episode kicked off with a flashback from 1995. Obviously, we saw Captain Marvel at the time and what was going on with Nick Fury. And it really goes to the point of what is the correlation between Nick Fury and the Skrulls. Because obviously we know that Carol Danvers and Monica Rambeau, we know what their connection was. We know that that Nick Fury, he left Earth and went up there with the Skrulls. And, we just saw him sunbathing and stuff like that in space. And they didn't really allude to what's going on. And in every movie we've watched since, they don't really let us know what's going on. So we do find out in this one. We find out that, obviously after back Captain Marvel, we know that the Kree was trying to destroy the Skrulls. And that's why they were shape-shifting and moving around. And, a few of them came to Earth, which was what Nick Fury knew at the time, and at the time it was Talos and a few other people. In this, there's a scene where you find out that it's 1 million Skrulls or more that have come to Earth and have been there the whole time, and Nick Fury's quite angry about not knowing about that. But when you find out from the 1995 flashback, there was a promise, almost like a treaty kind of thing between the Skrulls and Nick, because Talos basically entrusted Nick Fury's character to his own people. So he said, Nick Fury made a promise to them, which the episode's called Promises. I will make sure I will protect your people in Skrullland, wherever it is, you know what I mean. And you make sure that you protect my people while you're on Earth, as long as, and you can live here, it's fine. Obviously, he only thought it was those people in the room, which was about 18 Skrulls. There's millions of them. And now we know that between them Skrulls, some of them are rebellious. There's really a mix of 3 groups in this. You have Nick Fury's group, who just want the humans and the Skrulls to be safe individually. You got the other group where they just want the humans to be safe and cast out the Skrulls, and then there's the other group where the Skrulls just want to cast out the humans. And Gravik in this one explains the reason why he's so angry. We find there's a meeting between some of the world leaders, and they're all Skrulls, but they don't all have the same opinions on stuff. And they're quite mad at Gravik for what happened in Russia with the 2000 dying. And they pinned it on Nick Fury and Maria Hill, who passed away in the last episode. And basically says that, listen, the promise that Nick made to us, he didn't live by it, he left. And we've been victimized and Skrulls have been killed while Nick Fury's not been around. So now it's almost a revenge mission to take Earth from humans and let the Skrulls have Earth, because you don't deserve it and you didn't help us out. And there's a lovely scene where Gravik is given, it's almost like I like to say Agent Smith from Matrix, where he's speaking about humans, how we were viruses to each other, and Thanos was the same thing when he's basically saying it's inevitable what humans are going to do. And he says the word inevitable himself in this speech. And he says they're going to take each other out anyway. Look at them. So we might as well do it. Nick Fury always mentions when he finds out about the million, he says that he's just speaking about, prior to this, about having to stay in a coloured cart on the train and stuff like that. And then prior to that, the Russian just mentioned we're looking for this black man and, won't find him here. So it's almost like, yeah, humans are not perfect in any shape or form. And he's mad at Talos because he doesn't trust the humans to treat Skrulls. Talos just wants to coexist. He doesn't want any leadership over humans or anything like that. But Nick's saying humans can't even coexist between themselves. So that's it. So the whole show revolves around, who is Nick Fury? Is he going to get back to being himself, or is this old guy? And he doesn't keep promises. Also in this, we have Rhodey. Rhodey defends Nick Fury and Maria Hill in the Council of Nations. And then when he comes out, he ends up having a meeting with Nick Fury. And Nick's basically asking him for help and tells him about the Skrulls and all this stuff. And we find out Rhodey knew about the Skrulls up to 15 years ago. He's had this meeting to sack Nick Fury, to fire him, because he's saying that you're an old guy now. And there's great speeches in this between. I have to watch the dialogue between the two. I really, really enjoyed it. And they go back and forth. And basically, Nick's telling him, like, yo, for people like us, we don't just get handed these positions and stuff, so now you're in a position of power, you should help me. And Rhodey's point is, yeah, I am helping, not as an Avenger anymore, but I'm helping as somebody who's second to the president, as an Attorney General kind of thing, and helping people like us. And I said, people like us didn't receive power to give it back to people like us who are weak, it's a great speech. And then Nick Fury leans over to him and says, listen, I'm Nick Fury, and even when I'm out, I'm in. And I thought it was a great speech, and he tilts his hat and walks off. I thought it was a beautiful, beautiful thing from Nick. I like the range for Samuel Jackson in this, because there's a point in it where he was on the train, and it felt like he was just Samuel Jackson. And then by the time he got to the end, it's like, nah, this is Nick Fury. I like this man. And I think we're building up to see him getting back to his normal self, healthy and stuff. Because at the moment, he's obviously a little bit older, he's a bit weaker, he's out of breath. He's got the grey beard and stuff like that. The eye patch isn't on anymore. He's not taking care of himself like that. So seems a bit stressed, but I thought that was great. On the other side with Gravik, we find out from Talos' daughter, following some other Skrulls around, that Rosa Dalton's in this, who's from the comics, and Rosa Dalton and her husband are Skrulls. They've taken on the alias as Rosa Dalton, and I can't remember what the husband's name is, but she's a researcher and a scientist trying to make the Skrulls stronger. There's building a massive machine. And on this, you see a bit of an Easter egg. It goes to the screen, you see Groot on there, and obviously, I can't remember so it's got Groot on there, who's a Flora Colossus, I think he is. That's what the species is. You've got Frost Beast on there, which is, the beast in Thor, who's running around. You got the Extremis, which is the one from Iron Man 3, I think. What's his name again? The Mandarin, when he's injecting into people and they turn into like really heated up. And then you've got Cull Obsidian, which is one of Thanos' kids, the big beefy one. So basically, they're doing all the research on that to make the Skrulls strong. If they make them stronger, these Skrulls can wage war on the rest of the world and take it over. So I thought it was great. And then right at the end, we get a scene of Nick. He's in Brixton. He goes and gets his Range Rover and he starts driving back up these country roads. You see him go up to this house, which is a very nice looking house, but he doesn't knock on the door. He doesn't sneak in like a spy. He just opens the door and walks in. And straight away I knew that Marvel were going to go down this route. It was either going to be he's got a kid that nobody knows about, he's got a wife and kid that nobody knows about, or he's just got a wife. And he walks in and you see the female figure cutting some cucumber up as a Skrull. And then as he walks around into the room, she changes into a regular woman. And she's like, you're forgetting one thing, and then he puts his in his wedding ring, and they start kissing, and that's the end of the episode. And I thought it was beautiful, man, and I kind of gathered this would be the whole reason, because they needed a good enough reason for why Nick just left Earth like that while they needed his help still. And why he left is because his wife's a Skrull, so obviously she was probably up in the ship with him at the time, and he brought her back down. So I have to say, I'm enjoying this now. The first episode, I was going to stick with it anyway, because I'd never just give up on watching something off one episode. But this particular episode, if you're into this, not too much action, but the story's written perfect. I love it. And I think the conspiracy theory to it, even Nick Fury calling Skrulls shaped reptilians and stuff like that. And obviously, the conspiracies about reptilians and they're living among us. And obviously, I don't believe it. But it is good for the conspiracy of it. So please go and watch it. If you're watching, you're probably gonna watch it first and then come and watch my review. Either way you do it, watch it. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And for any of my law supporters who haven't watched it but just come for the reviews, go watch it and then we can chop it up. I mean, you boys, comment, like, subscribe, and share. Woo!